almost done?
I just, you started, so I just was trying to finish.
Okay, okay, great.
Okay, good. Let me just finish this, and I'll be right with you.
Okay, thanks. No, now I've got, just give me one more second. I've just got to do one more.
You're always on your phone.
So according to Pew Research, 51% of adults noted that their partner is often distracted by their phone during a conversation.
No.
Oh, there's an audience.
So,
sorry.
How many people have ever felt like you're talking to your friend, your loved one, your child, and their attention is on their phone instead of you? And how many people have been told by their child or partner or friend that you're distracted on your phone and you thought, why are you being such a pain in the ass? We're here to talk about that. So I want to just maybe open it up and talk about, so how do you do this dance where you have this amazing phone with all this incredible AI and technology and answers to all your questions? It only tells you positive things. It supports you and provides all kinds of beautiful images and stories and social media and the human being that you're with. And so curious in your relationship dance, how you balance those two worlds.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having this conversation, Soren and Cecily. It's just a joy to be with you guys, and it's wonderful to be with all of you today.
This amazing community.
Yeah, it's just a privilege to be part of this wonderful community. I think like the relationship dopamine feed has been, the evolutionary best source of dopamine in our lives, and then this other thing was invented that also gives us these regular dopamine hits. And I think how we balance those things in our relationships is really challenging.
Yeah.
And we're here to tell you all of our mistakes and how we struggle with this. So we were trying to give you an example of what happens before bed often, like one more text and then what we call the texting arms race. Because one person starts and then the other person's on, and then it just kind of escalates from there.
Exactly. And I wanted to bring in, because I'm a physician, so I'm always thinking about these things from the point, and I'm an integrative physician, so I think about it from the place of health and wholeness. And what I know, because I've now been a doctor for 30 years, wow, that went fast. But there was a great study, it's in the book, Robert Putnam's book, Bowling Alone, where they looked at folks from 1950 to 1975, and they measured something called social fitness. And social fitness is the time you spend at home having dinner with your family, hanging out with your friends, maybe you go over to their house for dinner, maybe you go to hang out with your bowling league, or you go to a place of worship, anything you do in the community with other people, social fitness. Between 1950 and 1975, the decrease in social fitness, 50%. And what happened in 1950 technologically?
TV.
Television. Then they measured it again from 1975 to 15 years ago, and there was an additional 25% decrease. That's 15 years ago, folks. So imagine now. So we took the human animal, right? We're very old. This physiology is 10,000 years old. These signals we have, the hormones, the neurotransmitters that make us feel safe, that make us feel well, that make our physiology work, that actually prevent chronic disease, very old. And then we took these deeply ingrained patterns of being connected intimately with each other, but also with our communities, and we decrease them, I'm guessing 80%, 90%, one could guess. It has a huge impact on well-being.
Yeah. So one thing I've heard at least one of you say recently is that AI and technology is raising the bar for relationship. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by that, and maybe how that is expressed in your relationship?
Do you want to feel this one, or you want me to?
No, you got it.
I think that, I had an affair with ChatGPT last week.
So did we.
And I had this really deep and meaningful conversation with ChatGPT. And I was like, while I was doing the dishes, right? And it was about the history of war and violence. That's my kink. Okay, so I was talking about, but it was fascinating and intoxicating. And I think there's a way in which digital has always raised the bar for analog. You know, I don't think that that our relationships are going anywhere, but I do think that they are in a power struggle with the digital reality, and that we have to actually increasingly raise the bar for our analog relationships, for our human relationships, and recognize, and one of the things that is very powerful, I think, is the idea that attention is the smallest measure of love. Where we put our attention is what we love. Yeah. And so when we're drawn to all these other devices and all these other engagements, to really be focusing on giving our partners or our friends or our children that highest quality of attention and presence, which I think obviously is so powerful and important to this community, so that we can really show up. I think you mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh saying presence is the greatest gift we can give. So that, I think, is kind of the crux of this moment, is how when our intimacy needs, I think we're actually in an intimacy revolution right now. If you think about what we wanted from our relationships, and particularly from our romantic relationships 100 years ago, for all of human history prior to that, it was none of the transparency, intimacy, vulnerability that we now want from our relationships. So our needs and our opportunity for intimacy are expanding exponentially as our attention is being sapped away. So how do we manage to marry those together?
And?
Well, I think, let's talk about other challenges that we face, which is like, we actually, one of our strategies is we ask for permission to go on our phone when we're together.
When we remember.
So
Like always when you're together?
when
like
we're together,
in the car,
like when
in the kitchen,
one of us is,
all
so
of
this
it?
is the other thing, which is that we are so attuned to one another's micro expressions as human beings.
Yes.
And that if somebody is like slightly distracted or not paying attention, we feel it as disrespect. When we walked into the stage, you probably were like, what the hell? Like, aren't you noticing that we're an audience and we're here? And so it's really disturbing and disrespecting to us, and we feel it at a very deep level. So now when we're together, it doesn't matter whether we're checking Yelp or we're checking, do you mind if I just go on and check X or Y and ask for permission? And that is how we're trying to manage kind of the tech intrusion in our, makes, the ChatGPT thruple that we're having to experience.
And it can also be a tool for intimacy and connection.
Yes.
Right? So we had a little bit of a confessional when we were having a call about this time yesterday. Last week, I think it was Wednesday night or something, I was finishing up in the kitchen, putting things away, and I did the thing I don't like to do, which is I opened Instagram right before going to the bedroom. And I saw this really intriguing note from a friend, and she says, there's this amazing GPT prompt. You got to check it out with your partner. So I opened it up, and I did it, and the answer was fascinating. The question was, what do you know about me that you think I should know about me?
To the AI.
To the AI. Exactly. And then I got this answer, and then I ran into the bedroom, and Soren and I end up breaking all of our rules in about 5 minutes. Both of us on the bed with our phones, engaging with this AI in this kind of intimate way, where we were both being seen in a way that maybe was
It was using
complementary
all the
to
data that we've inputted it into as queries to then tell us about ourselves.
Yeah. So when you guys have said you can use this technology to support intimacy, can you tell us a little bit what you mean by that? Is it prompts that help you see yourself in a different way? Is it using tech to connect when you're apart? What do you mean by using tech to connect more intimately?
Well, I do think there is a lot to be said for connection while apart, because we are apart a consequential amount of time.
Yeah.
And when we were first together, we were apart like by 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
And we could only write letters.
And
because we couldn't afford phone calls.
And to have a fight through letters that take a month to arrive
Really
is
brutal.
really challenging.
Brutal. So, and now we have grown kids who have had very successful long distance relationships, but technology allows them to do that because they can actually see each other's faces. And I think using the appropriate technology for the thing itself, conversations ideally need to either be had by voice or with a face in
video.
front of you,
Yeah.
because texting is, maybe not ideal. It's good for potato chip conversations.
I'll just say real quick.
Go ahead.
Just that, so we have a family text thread called Fam-A-Lot, and it's hugely valuable to keep the family connected and just to share with one another, and so that's super valuable. And the thing I would say is that every medium has its ideal use. So things that should be text messages are different than things that should be phone calls, that are different than things that should be video calls. And so really, and I think it's very easy to default to just texting because it's so fast, it's so easy, and realizing that there's no substitute for the human voice, for the human face, and for human presence. And so really trying to think in our communications with one another, what is this? What is needed here in terms of the right medium?
Well, I was just going to bring up the point which we talked about it in terms of the people that we actually feel closest to. And I know, Rachel, you had done some looking into that in terms of like, how many people do we actually have? Who are our real friends and who are like fake friends? And Obama, when he was giving a speech at the Democratic convention, he's like, we spend so much time trying to get likes from people we've never met, trying to get liked by people we've never met, right? Like all this time and attention getting liked. And so what is it that actually nurtures like fans and like kind of like well-known, and what is it actually that nurtures like the real friends? And so
Yeah.
I thought you could share some on that.
Yeah, so I would like everyone here to actually just take a minute, and I want you to think about, if you can, 3 people. If there's more, that's fine. But people that are your really most intimate, family or friends or family, however you think about it, that are the people that you would call if you're at the hospital and you need help. You had surgery and you need a ride home. They're the people who you trust their opinion about you and your life. People who there is no boundary to what you can talk about with them. Okay, so this is not friends in the larger sense. This is deep friends. So just take a moment and name those people in your mind. And while you're doing that, I'll just say there's no ideal number of friends that any one person should have. Some of us are more introverted, some of us are neurodiverse, some of us need giant crowds, some of us need just a circle of close people. But we all need people. So those intimate people for you, you want to have the most intimate contact with, which means ideally face-to-face contact. And if you can't have that, at least face contact using some of the benefits of technology, because that is how we feel safe. That is how we go from sympathetic stress overdrive that drives everything, our physiology, in the wrong direction, to a more vagal tone, to parasympathetic state, where we feel calm, relaxed, and well.
Yeah.
Maybe I was wondering if you might talk about the health benefits of that social fitness that we're losing so much of, because I think that's really powerful.
It's no joke. If you have, when they looked at people with community relationships, and in this case, not even these tight, close friends, I mean people like, oh, I know this person at church and this person at the grocery store, and these are the people where I work in the secretariat. Light relationships, but community relationships. The more categories of relationships people had were in the highest quartile. The people in the lowest quartile had the lowest number of people that they were in relationship with. And the difference in mortality was 50%. 50%. And again, this isn't even deep relationships. But if you think about it, these touch points as you walk through the world, as you go to your bodega and get your coffee, as you go through your life, you're at the post office, you say hi to somebody at work. These are touch points that communicate to our bodies, I'm safe or I'm not. And the more times you feel safe, the better you do. We're just human animals, you know? We're like the kitty cats that are rubbing their cheeks against the things that are safe with their pheromones, you know?
Do you see impacts of this among your patient base? And how do you advise people to tackle those tendencies or those longings or missings in their lives if they're getting too dependent on tech?
Did you say pacifists? I missed that first word.
No, patients. Sorry,
Patients.
for your patients. Like you must encounter some of these negative effects.
In
your
almost
own
everyone,
practice.
let's be honest, who doesn't have negative effects of tech in their lives?
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time talking about relationships and actually seeing each other face to face and human touch. I really can't say enough about human touch. It increases our oxytocin, which makes us feel calm and centered. It actually, touch and pleasure, it doesn't even have to be sex, though we're not opposed to that. That's good for you, too. Increases estrogen. It decreases cortisol. It gives you this cocktail of experience that helps us, again, feel safe and feel settled. Reduces inflammation, decreases cardiovascular disease, decreases stroke. But in broad strokes, improves your health. So we talk a lot about increasing touch. For my people who have just lost a spouse, for example, I immediately talk to them about setting up massage therapy sessions. You know, at places where they can regularly be touched for a while, because it is a real physiologic hit to the system to be lacking in physical affection. And I would say the same about seeing faces that are familiar or that you care about.
I think Facebook has done some good things, but we were talking about how this whole notion of friends is somebody that likes my posts and I like their posts, which friends used to mean so much more. If I said somebody was a friend, like we actually have been through some struggle together, we have some challenges together, we can give each other honest feedback, positive or negative. And instead we live in this world where we're going for the like. We want more likes, we want more attention, and there's this. I know sometimes a friend will be like, oh, this certain Instagram celebrity or whatever got back to me. Beyonce responded to my comment. I'm like, Beyonce is on a yacht in the Mediterranean. She's got 4 or 5 assistants that are probably responding to you. But there's this sense that like, no, we're close. Like, no, it's not her. She's in the studio. I don't know where she is, but I know she's probably not responding to you on the thing. But there's a sense of like, oh, I have these connections. But when we actually think of our nervous system, probably does not respond in a different way. It's almost like eating potato chips versus having like organic salad, right? Like it's food, it's something, but it's not that nourishing part that really satiates.
It's dopamine. So just to be specific, dopamine is it's related to adrenaline. They're almost exactly the same. It feels good, but it's temporary. It's not necessarily, I'm not saying dopamine's bad. We need it. It's wonderful, but it's not nourishing to the body. It doesn't calm the physiology in a way that helps us feel connected and safe and well in our world, particularly in these times.
I think I would also think about the distinction between capital F friends and lowercase f friends. And the capital F friends are the ones that Rachel was really talking about. And who are those, and how do we nourish those relationships? How do we, and the data on social media, one of the ways that social media can be beneficial for people is when they engage actively in it. And they use it to reach out to their friends or cohort groups where they have a cancer diagnosis and they connect with people around that diagnosis. So it's the passive consumption of the social media that is the most harmful, it seems, from the data. And I think that just thinking about it that way, like where can we be most active and most prioritizing the meaningful engagement? And I'll give you, Esther Perel talks about, she asks this very powerful question, or Esther, as she likes to say. Esther, she asks this very powerful question, which is, what do you touch first in your morning, when you wake up in the morning, your partner or your phone? Ooh, that's a slap across the face, isn't it?
Ouch. Yeah.
So I will just confess, that I really liked having my phone next to my bed because So, and I would just say that, it was because it was my alarm, and I would wake up in the middle of the night because I'm a very light sleeper, and I'd look at the time, and Rachel
We
tried
have
to get
so
me.
much concern for you.
Thank you for your empathy. And I want to say that Rachel was right. Like
What?
that.
Amazing.
Here, I will say publicly for the first time, Rachel was right. So that to get the phones out of the bedroom. And so we keep our phones in our closets. Now, sometimes Rachel disappears into that closet, and it takes a long time for her to get out of that closet.
It's a long time to get dressed.
She undresses very slowly sometimes in that closet. But it's, I think it is really, it's like we shouldn't expect ourselves to have willpower that is that strong.
No.
Right? We need to set ourselves up for success. And just moving that phone from the side of my bed, so Rachel was away at a conference this week, and I put the phone back on the bed, ChatGPT, and and I was like, okay. I felt like I was cheating, but it was a little disruptive having the phone there because I'm used to now having that phone be a digital-free zone. And it's just, the way Rachel got me was she's like, when I see you in bed on your phone, it's not sexy. I was like, all right, the phone's coming out of there.
And what would it be like if you put a meditation cushion or yoga mat or something that you want to cultivate right next to your bed? So that's the first thing you see.
Probably yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the habit science is really clear on this, right? We work with B.J. Fogg, who talks about tiny habits, which is what Atomic Habits is based on. And it's these very small things. If we want to exercise more, it's putting our sneakers by our front door. If we want to have sex more, it's putting our phone outside of our bedroom.
Amen. I love it. That's great. That's great. So we talked a bit about lovership and friendship. Among us, we have 6 kids who are all young adults or adulting in the world. How have you coached them in how to be responsible and prioritize actual human connection over tech connection? Any final tips for those of us who are supporting a younger generation in not just being addicted to the dopamine hit of the moment to moment on a phone?
Well, we're adamant about family dinner, and I know it's difficult because young people are busy, but we really insisted upon it and worked hard to make it happen. And the rule is, if you're at the table, there is no phone, no excuses. 0 excuses. You got to do something. You have to leave the table. We create a space, just like in the bedroom, that is free from digital. And our children are all now public speakers, amazing communicators, got that. Kids today really struggle with not having facial recognition in the way that is so natural and normal for the human organism. And I just think there is no substitute for keeping small children generally away from tech completely. And then when you introduce it, as you can in your home, really keeping it clean, limiting it, and creating zones where there is none.
And modeling it, right?
And modeling
Modeling.
modeling it.
The last thing I'll say about this is with adult children, you don't tell them anything. But they tell us. But the beautiful thing was we were together at Rachel's father's memorial this last weekend, and one of our kids went on the phone at the table, and the other child said, no phones at the table here.
Screenager.
And called them a screenager, even though they're almost 30. So I think it's, it is that modeling, and when they're in your home, you can do that. And when they're out of your home, you just pray.
So we're out of time. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.